This has been sitting here for a couple of days. I thought I'd completed it. It worked well, everything appeared to be good. But what about this? What? Press on it, it returns to the rest position, no apparent problem. Lift it up, likewise it returns to the rest position, no apparent problem. But it does it every time without fail, and it's reluctant to go back. Something is very wrong. But what could it be? That's what I've got to find out. I'll start by taking the top off the camera, off with the rewind knob. Want the screw off the top of the meter dial, of course. This is the 3 big C with the dud meter. Single screw at the end of the top housing. 2 small screws at the top of the top housing at the rewind knob end. And the top cover should lift off, which it does. Lift the meter off and see if it behaves in the same way, because if it doesn't I'll be very angry. No, it certainly sticks. Can we provoke its return by doing anything at the top? Well, probably by pressing on the top of the shaft it might move. No. What about this? Is this sticking us? Not apparently. Could it be the shutter cocking rack? Let's remove 1 or 2 pieces. That's really reluctant to return to the rest position, but if I press on it, it's instantly back. Could there be any friction up here? Let's find out. Well, interestingly, it returned normally in that case, suggesting that there was some pressure on here. Also, something else of interest. Let's cock that again. I've just got that halfway across at the moment, but I can see that there's a significant amount of clearance here, which of course would be detrimental to the health of those teeth. This already has what's known as a service replacement screw post here, which is one with a slightly enlarged head, which would keep this rack closer in contact with that gear. So I can't do anything about that. But there are 2 screws, of course. Both these screws hold this top bush in position. So if I slacken those screws off and pull this back across this way as far as the play and the screw holes will allow, and tighten the screws, that'll take up some of that slack. Let's uncover a few more things. I'll take the chrome trim off so I can get at those screws easily. And I'll take the cocking rack out completely so that I can shift things over without a fight. So this screw and this screw, neither of which are loose, I'll slacken them off. I'll move this, pull this back as far towards the back of the camera as I can, do those two screws back up and put the rack back in place. That looks like a snugger fit. Let's put this back in place. Now the timing of the transfer shaft to the shutter may have taken the opportunity to move by a tooth or more while I had that rack out, so we don't know if that's going to cock the shutter still, but we'll find out. That certainly deals with that problem of the amount of play that was visible here. So that part's done. Now the idea that something to do at this end was, this may benefit from shims underneath. If it's rubbing on the rack, for example, if the rack, sometimes the racks can be bent so that this end sticks up and will rub on things. That's a possibility. Usually putting a shim underneath that end will deal with that. Put the chrome trim back. Let's put things back where they were. Just put the strap lug back in place. Now, let's put this exactly back where it was before, making no changes, and see if the problem returns. Yep, certainly does. Again, if I press on that, instantly the thing snaps back. Alright, I'll put two shim washers under these, one under each of these screws, which will lift the bracket slightly. You can have weird effects with the clamping of these brackets if, for example, someone has distorted the strap lug, typically by dropping the camera on its end, but atypically by wanting to force through a thicker strap than the camera was intended to take and actually bending the tabs outwards. There's no indication that that's the case here. I'll get those shim washers. Alright, I'll put these two shim washers in place. That looks like a thicker one than the other one. Let's see what I've got here. I've got a variety of these washers that I actually got these ones off eBay now that is a thinner washer. I should have one like that here somewhere then. There's one. I'll try with thin washers first and see if that makes the difference. These are not originally washers that came off a Retina, they're ones I bought on eBay, and that's because I don't have a large stock of shim washers. Sometimes I can be struggling to find them when I want them. And you can't use these ones from eBay on everything because the outside diameter is too large to fit some applications. Right, so let's try that. No, it still sticks out. So that wasn't sufficient, or didn't do the job one way or another. I'll try thicker washers. That's not returning very well. There is clearance between that post there. I'll just take that rack off completely. So the rack's not doing it. It's got nothing to do with the rack. It's got nothing to do with the strap lug directly. Bit of debris there. You can see from the motion that it appears that it's something at the top here might be causing it. See, the inner part moves as far as that. There's no indication anything else is happening. I'm going to take that screw out of the top of the gear, remove that gear from the top. I'll just take this strap lug and so forth back off, take that chrome trim out, so I've got access to everything. Whoops, see, just about pulled out the shutter release, which would have been potentially fatal. Okay. I'm going to take the screw out here and take that gear off the top. Keeping in mind that gear's not coupled to anything because it hasn't got the rack on there. Take that washer off. Lift the drive stuff off. Okay, so now our film advance shaft basically is not coupled to anything at the top of the camera. Let's remove that gear for good measure. Not that that's coupled to anything here. No, it's just sticky on the grease. Right, so let's try this. Yeah, it's sticking. Did you see it sticking? It flipped back, but it was not as free as it should have been. Yeah, it's sticking. Now we're coupled to nothing at the top of the camera there. The release shaft and the lock lever, neither of those are doing anything here. It's got to be down to the shaft itself. Alright, to delve deeper, I'll remove that gear from the top. I'll put the top cover back on there, mostly to hold the shutter release in so it can't fall off. If I seem paranoid about shutter releases falling out, it's with good reason. Alright, I'm going to need to put a rubber band around here because I haven't got any strap lugs on. That will do. Now I'll just tidy up here and get these parts sorted out into some semblance of order, so I know where everything is. Instead of having everything strewn all over the desktop. Right, that'll do. Let's bring the camera back into the picture. Well, there's nothing for it but the base plate off. That doesn't want to lift. Some solvent, I think. This adhesive, of course, is pretty fresh, so a drop of naphtha should soften that adhesive up pretty much instantly. That's cured more than I expected. That's fine. It was obviously doing its job. It can be very, very frustrating if you complete the final assembly of a camera. Everything appears to be going smoothly. Close everything up, all the leatherettes are fitted, everything's polished, everything's adjusted, and you come back the next day or the day after and something doesn't work. Now this camera had some fault of this nature when it arrived, which appeared to go away after cleaning, and now it appears to have returned. A bit cautious here because I've got the top's not held down with anything. So what can possibly go wrong with that film advance? Well, that's interesting. It's I know when I had it apart that it was obvious that the spring, the return spring, had bitten into the nickel-plated brass of the advance shaft itself. I wonder whether that is causing grief. perhaps the coils of the spring are binding over each other. This adhesive might also soften if I was to warm this up with a hairdryer or something too. That would probably suffice to soften that adhesive a bit. Certainly sticky. Alright, put that to one side. Get this chrome trim plate off. And there is the film advance. I'm going to reassemble the top, since I've already determined that the components of the top are not the main cause of problems. And I'll put the strap lugs back on here, I think, just to hold everything in place. I won't put the cocking rack back in place immediately. Where's that other screw gone? Oh, there it is. It was there all along. Okay. And I'll wind the normal tension onto this film advance. Lift that lock lever out of the way. Pull that back. That would be there. Okay, that's busy trying to get away. Let's put the film advance lever on there. These screws will hold that lever in place. There's one possibility is that the lever rubs on the bottom of the case. Well, I'd already discounted that. Okay, so that's in. We're at frame number 1, are we? Okay. Now that film advances moves exactly normally there. There's no resistance, no undue resistance, it just moves smoothly. That's a mystery, isn't it? I've made no change at the bottom of the camera. But this is moving entirely normally. Okay, we've got a clue.